You think being feared means being cruel. You think people only cross those who are weak, and that the man who cannot be crossed must be aggressive, loud, or violent. That belief is not just wrong. It is the reason you have been confusing intimidation for power, and why you have never understood why some men command silence without ever raising their voice. Think about the last time you walked into a room and felt the temperature change, not because you said anything, not because you demanded attention, because people shifted, conversations became more deliberate. Someone stopped mid-sentence and rephrased. Another person offered you a seat before you asked. You felt the shift in your chest, the specific, quiet recognition that you were being handled carefully. You told yourself it was nothing. It was not nothing. The behavioral scientist Robert Cialdini, who spent 30 years documenting the specific mechanisms through which human beings calibrate their behavior toward other people, identified authority as the most durable of all social influence principles. Not performed authority, not announced authority. The specific invisible authority that communicates itself through consistency, restraint, and the specific willingness to let silence do the work that most men fill with words. The way to have power is to take it. Robert Greene, in the 48 Laws of Power. He meant that authority is never granted. It is occupied. And the man who occupies it so completely that others feel its weight without being told to, that man has crossed a threshold that most people in his life will never cross. You may have already crossed it. 5 signs. Each one names a specific behavioral shift in the people around you that confirms something most men spend their entire lives pursuing and never reach. If 4 of the 5 apply to your current life, you are already there, and you have been misreading the signals as social friction rather than social confirmation. Before the first sign is named, understand the architecture beneath all 5, because these signs do not exist in isolation. They are expressions of a single mechanism that your environment has learned to respond to, and once you understand the mechanism, you will see all 5 differently. Every social environment operates as an information processing system. Every person in your orbit is continuously collecting data about you, your responses under pressure, your behavior when tested, your willingness to enforce standards when enforcement is costly, and building an internal model of who you are and what you will do. That model determines how they approach you, what they say around you, what they withhold from you, and how much space they give you without being asked. Most men never develop a stable model in the minds of the people around them. Their responses are inconsistent. They enforce standards sometimes and capitulate others. They react emotionally in some situations and rationally in others. They draw lines and then step over them when the pressure is sufficient. The people in their environment learn that the model is unreliable and therefore worth testing continuously. Testing consumes energy on both sides and produces nothing except ongoing low-grade friction. The man who has developed authority, gravity, has built a model in the minds of the people around him that is stable, accurate, and consistently confirmed. They stopped testing, not because they gave up, because the tests kept producing the same result. And the result told them the cost of testing was higher than the benefit. That is the architecture. 5 signs confirm it is operational in your life. The first sign is the most immediate, the most physically felt, and the most misread. Think about the last time you walked into a room where people were already engaged in conversation. Not a formal meeting, a casual environment where people were speaking freely. And something shifted when you entered, not dramatically. A conversation became slightly more measured. Someone who was speaking with animated ease became slightly more deliberate. The specific quality of the room changed in a way that was invisible to anyone who did not know to look for it. You noticed it. Sign 1. People choose their words carefully around you. This is not about fear of you. It is about awareness of you. The people who choose their words carefully around you are not afraid of what you will do. They are responding to what they have already learned about what you notice. Somewhere in the history of your relationship with them, in a past conversation, a past moment, a past instance where you caught an inconsistency or named something they hoped would go unnamed, they learned that you are not someone who misses things. You are in a conversation and someone starts a sentence, pauses, and reconstructs it. Not because they were uncertain about grammar, because the first version of the sentence was imprecise, and they caught themselves before delivering imprecision to someone who would notice it. You feel the pause. You do not comment on it. but you register it, and so do they. This is called social precision pressure, the behavioral adjustment that occurs when a person believes their words are being received with higher than average analytical attention. It is not paranoia on their part, it is an accurate reading of the environment. You do pay closer attention than most people. You do notice inconsistency. You do remember what people said in previous conversations and hold it against what they say now, and they have learned this through experience, not through being told. The man who operates at a lower level of social authority gets comfortable, sloppy conversation from the people around him. Nobody edits themselves for someone whose attention they have assessed as casual. The man who has developed authority gravity gets the edited version of every person he interacts with, the version people produce when they believe their words are being genuinely processed. Most men would find this isolating. The man who understands it recognizes it as information. The editing itself tells you something about the gap between what someone is willing to say to you and what they actually think. That gap is data. The operational instruction: do not make it easier for people to be imprecise around you. Your silence after a poorly constructed statement does more work than any correction ever could. Let the pause sit. Let them feel the specific discomfort of having said something that did not survive its own delivery in your presence. They will reconstruct, and the reconstruction will be closer to what is actually true. The first sign is about how people speak. The next sign is about something they stop doing entirely, and its absence is louder than anything they could have said. Every man has experienced the specific social dynamic of being tested. Minor disrespects, small provocations, comments designed to measure the edge of your tolerance. The people who once did this to you, when did they stop? Sign 2. People stop testing you. Testing does not look like aggression. It looks like a joke that lands slightly wrong. A boundary crossed just enough to see what happens. A commitment made and then not honored to see whether you will enforce or absorb. A statement made about you in a group setting that contains a slight distortion to see whether you will correct it or let it stand. Every person in your environment has tested you. They did it early in the relationship when the model was still being built. They were not necessarily malicious. They were calibrating, determining how much space they could occupy in relation to you, how much you would absorb, what the cost of pushing would be. At some point, after you responded correctly to enough tests, the testing stopped. Not because they became more respectful, because they completed the assessment. The model was finished, and the model told them, the cost of testing this person is higher than the benefit of knowing the result. Think about the specific person in your life who used to make comments that required a response, the kind of comment that was never quite an insult, but always required you to decide whether to let it pass. When is the last time they made that kind of comment to you? When is the last time someone in your regular environment tried to move a boundary you had established? If you cannot remember, the tests have stopped. The mechanism beneath this is what behavioral researchers call punishment expectancy, the cognitive anticipation of a negative consequence that inhibits behavior before the behavior occurs. They are not waiting to see what you will do. They have already calculated it based on past data, and the calculation produced a number high enough to make the test not worth running. Here is the part that most men misunderstand about this sign. The absence of tests is not peace. It is respect, operating quietly. The man who never gets tested is not getting tested because nobody around him has bothered to form a model, because the model would not be worth the effort of building. He is irrelevant to the calibration process. The man who used to get tested and no longer does has something different. He has a completed model that produced a specific outcome, and that outcome is what the people around him are responding to every day without telling him. The operational instruction: do not relax into the absence of tests as though the work is done. The model is maintained by consistency. The moment your responses become inconsistent, the moment you absorb something you previously would not have, the testing restarts, not because something changed in them, because the data changed and the model needs updating. The first 2 signs are about how people speak and what people stopped doing. The next sign is about what your silence produces, and it is the most uncomfortable of the 5, because it is the sign that most closely resembles something that could be mistaken for intimidation, but has nothing to do with it. This sign has made men question whether they have become someone they did not intend to be. The answer is no. But understanding why requires understanding what silence actually communicates in a person who has developed authority, gravity. Sign 3. Your silence makes people uncomfortable. You have not said anything threatening. You have not expressed displeasure. You have not communicated disapproval through any word or visible expression. You simply have not responded yet. And the person across from you is filling the space you have left open with escalating anxiety that has nothing to do with anything you did. They are telling you something, and you are listening without reacting. They made a statement, and you have not confirmed it or denied it. They asked a question, and you are considering your response rather than producing one immediately. And while you are doing what most careful people do, thinking before speaking, the other person is experiencing your processing time as judgment. This is happening because your silence is not neutral to them, it has weight. They have enough historical data about you to know that your silence is not absence, it is assessment. They have seen what follows your silence in previous situations, the precise observation, the accurate read, the specific statement that demonstrates you were listening at a level they underestimated. They have learned that your quiet is not the quiet of someone who has nothing to say. It is the quiet of someone who is deciding what to say. And what you decide will be worth hearing, whether or not it is comfortable. In 2019, a documented study on social dynamics in high-stakes negotiation environments recorded a consistent pattern across hundreds of professional interactions. Participants who had established reputations for precision and considered response, people whose previous interactions had trained observers to expect accuracy over speed, produced measurable increases in anxiety in their conversation partners during periods of silence, not because they had done anything threatening, because the established reputation made their silence feel loaded. The observers knew that what followed the silence would be accurate and consequential, and the anticipation of that accuracy was itself uncomfortable. Your silence makes people uncomfortable, not because you are menacing, but because your attention is valued and your responses are expected to be precise. The anxiety they experience is the specific anticipation of being seen clearly by someone whose clarity they have learned to respect. The operational instruction: do not fill silences to make people comfortable. Every time you fill a silence with reassurance or premature response, you are teaching the people around you that your silence is available for management, that their discomfort with it will produce a rescue. Let the silence do its work. The quality of what follows a genuine pause is always higher than the quality of what fills a manufactured one. And the people around you already know this from experience. Now think about the last time someone you respect gave you a compliment. And think about the last time someone you do not particularly respect gave you the same compliment. The words were identical. The impact was not. Why? That difference is what the next sign is about. And it is the most revealing of all 5, because it tells you something not just about your environment, but about what you have built internally. Sign 4. Your approval has weight that others does not. When you tell someone their work is good, genuinely good, the information lands differently than it would coming from most people. Not because you are more important in any external hierarchy, because the people who have interacted with you long enough have learned that your approval is not automatic. You do not compliment reflexively. You do not affirm mediocrity to smooth social friction. You do not produce enthusiasm on demand, because the social situation seems to require it. The people in your environment have observed this. They have watched you respond neutrally or critically to things that others praised, and they have updated their internal model accordingly. The model says this person's positive assessment is not distributed equally. It is calibrated to actual quality, which means when it is given, it means something. This is called scarcity value transfer, the psychological principle by which the rarity of a resource increases its perceived value regardless of the resource's intrinsic properties. Your approval has become a scarce resource in your environment, not because you calculated it that way, because you stopped manufacturing it to manage other people's comfort. The scarcity emerged naturally from your refusal to perform enthusiasm you did not feel. The specific experience of this sign: someone finishes a presentation, a project, a piece of work. They watch the room for reactions. They receive the automatic affirmations that rooms produce, the nodding, the "it was great," the "you killed it" from the people whose assessments they have long since discounted because they know those assessments arrive regardless of quality. And then they look at you, and your response, whatever it is, carries a weight that the automatic affirmations do not. If you say it was good, they believe it was good, not because you are the final authority on quality, because you have earned the reputation of someone who would tell them if it was not. The dark mechanic operating beneath this sign is what psychologists call discriminative stimulus, the specific signal that a trained observer has learned to distinguish from background noise because it reliably precedes a meaningful outcome. In the language of human behavior, the people around you have learned that your approval is a signal worth tracking because it is not random. Random signals are ignored. Reliable signals are attended to. The operational instruction: protect the scarcity. The moment you begin affirming things you do not genuinely find worth, affirming to manage someone's feelings, to smooth a social moment, to make a situation more comfortable, you are inflating the currency. Inflation destroys value. Your approval is worth what it is because you have not inflated it. Every genuine affirmation you give is worth every time you withheld a false one. Do not trade that in. The previous 4 signs are about what other people do. The final sign is different. It is about what you have stopped doing and why what you stopped doing changed everything. This is the sign that separates the man who has genuinely developed authority gravity from the man who is performing it. And the difference is internal, invisible, and immediately felt by everyone in the room. Sign 5. You have stopped seeking confirmation from the room. At some point, without deciding to, you stopped looking around for validation that what you said landed correctly. You stopped monitoring people's expressions after you made a statement to verify that it was received well. You stopped softening your positions when you felt the room was not with you, and you stopped over-explaining yourself when you sensed that someone disagreed. You said what you meant, you let it sit, and you moved on. This is the most significant behavioral shift on the entire list, not because of what it produced externally, but because of what it reflects internally. Every behavior described in the previous 4 signs is a consequence of this one. The careful word choice from others, the ceased testing, the weight of your silence, the value of your approval, all of it flows from the specific reality that you have stopped needing the room's confirmation to feel settled in your own position. The man who seeks confirmation from the room teaches the room that his positions are negotiable, that his comfort is contingent on their approval, that he is performing his responses rather than delivering them, and the room responds accordingly by providing or withholding the confirmation as a form of control. People who need approval can be moved by its withdrawal. The man who needs approval can be managed by anyone willing to strategically withhold it. Theodore Roosevelt, who governed the most powerful country on earth in the early 20th century and who was documented extensively by his contemporaries as a man whose presence produced immediate authority calibration in every room he entered, was described repeatedly by foreign diplomats and domestic political opponents alike as impossible to manage through the conventional social mechanisms they used on everyone else. The mechanism they identified, he did not appear to need their approval of his positions in order to hold them. He listened, he considered. He updated when the logic required it, but he did not update when the social pressure required it. And the people who had tried to move him through social pressure, through the withdrawal of warmth, through collective disapproval, through making him feel isolated in his position, found that the mechanism did not work, and they stopped trying. The story of Roosevelt is the story of the 5th sign made historical. The room stopped testing him because the test did not produce the expected result. And once a room learns that the test does not work, it stops running the test and starts operating differently. You have experienced a version of this in your own social environment. The moment you stopped seeking confirmation, the environment stopped using confirmation as a lever, not because they became more ethical, because the lever stopped working. This is called approval independence, the internal state in which a person's behavioral decisions are not contingent on the positive response of the people observing them. It is not indifference to other people. It is the specific discipline of separating your assessment of quality from the room's response to it. You can care deeply about whether something is good without caring whether the room's response confirms that it is good. The operational instruction: examine your most recent social interactions. In which moments did you feel the pull to check whether what you said was received well? And in which moments did you resist that pull and let the statement stand unmodified? The moments where you resisted are the moments where you operated from the 5th sign. The moments where you yielded to the pull are the moments where the mechanism was still in place. You are building something that takes consistency to maintain. Every time you seek confirmation, you reinstall the lever. Every time you don't, you reinforce the gravity. Now step back and look at all 5 together. People choose their words carefully around you. They have stopped testing you. Your silence carries weight. Your approval has become a scarce resource. You have stopped seeking confirmation from the room. 5 behavioral patterns, 5 different expressions of the same single reality. Every one of these signs is a consequence of authority, congruence, the state in which a person's internal standards, external behavior, and responses under pressure are all aligned with the same underlying set of values and commitments. The people around you have experienced enough interactions with you to build a model of that alignment, and the model is what produces every sign on this list. This is the insight that most content in this niche never reaches. The authority that makes other people adjust their behavior is not produced by projection, not by strategy, and not by performance. It is produced by congruence. The man whose internal standards match his external behavior, who does not hold a position he does not actually hold, who does not affirm what he does not actually affirm, who does not react in ways that do not reflect his actual response to the situation, is the man whose environment cannot find the gap between who he appears to be and who he actually is. The man without that gap cannot be manipulated through the gap. Machiavelli observed this in the rulers who survived the most politically lethal environments of Renaissance Florence. The specific quality that distinguished the men who maintained their positions through decades of court politics from the men who were maneuvered out of them within months. He wrote, "Men in general judge more by their eyes than by their hands, for everyone can see, but very few have to feel." He meant that the display of who you are is what most people respond to, and the man whose display is congruent with his reality gives his environment no alternative reality to leverage against him. The 5 signs are not achievements to collect. They are confirmations of a process that is already underway. The question is not whether you have these signs. The question is whether you understand what produced them well enough to protect the conditions that allow them to persist. If this video named something you have been experiencing without language for it, like it. That is all. 1 sentence. Subscribe if this precision is what you want consistently. If you want access to the complete authority gravity framework, the specific behavioral protocols for each of the 5 signs that cannot be published publicly because they move into operational territory, this platform is not designed to contain. Click the join button below. Inside, the advanced social mechanics of how authority gravity compounds over time, the specific situations where it is most vulnerable and how to protect it, and the documented patterns of how other men in your environment will attempt to recalibrate the dynamic once they realize the old mechanisms no longer work. The men inside already know why they pressed it. You stayed through a video that required you to examine your own social environment from the outside, the specific discipline of a man who is more interested in accurate maps than comfortable ones. The 5 signs are already operating in your life. You identified at least 3 of them before this video ended. The work now is not to pursue the signs. The signs are byproducts. The work is to maintain the internal conditions that produce them, the congruence, the consistency, the specific refusal to perform approval. You do not feel or hold positions. You do not actually occupy. Everything that made the room adjust to you came from that. Protect it like the asset it is.